Hello, welcome to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Garden. My name is Anne. Tom is at work tonight, and so today is one of my weekend days. And while he is at work, we are going to make him some spaghetti sauce because he requested that this week. I'm going to be cooking sauce from scratch, as you can see. This is something that I kind of recently taught myself to do, based on like videos on TikTok and YouTube and reading a couple recipes. I decided to wing it myself and figure it out. I didn't have a whole lot of influence teaching me how to cook from scratch from like childhood or anything. There have been a couple people along the way over the years that have kind of taught me a little bit, but mostly I just learned by trial and error, which is how we're doing everything for our little aspiring homestead here. One of the main things that you do need to learn how to do if you're going to homestead is cook from scratch. Obviously, it's only kind of from scratch because I'm using tomatoes somebody else grew and processed, but that's because I don't have any in my garden yet. This recipe is based on a childhood memory. If you're not from the Midwest, or even like our part of the Midwest, Nebraska and Iowa, you may not have heard of Valentino's, but it was a pizza and pasta restaurant. They'd had a big buffet, and my favorite sauce from there was the Italian sausage and mushroom. And I would always get excited because they'd kind of rotate through certain sauces. So I kept looking online for like a dupe, like a copycat recipe. Since Valentino's was just like this little section of Iowa, Nebraska, and maybe like a little bit of Kansas and Missouri, if I remember right. But I couldn't find a recipe that I could go off of, so I was like, well, I'm gonna just learn how to make my own spaghetti sauce, and I can recreate it myself. I decided to do a pound of ground beef. I bought some grass-fed ground beef, and then I just got some Italian sausage. I got a couple onions. I got 2 cans of crushed tomatoes. I do like the Cento brand. I just think it tastes better. I got 2 jars of sliced mushrooms. I don't mind the texture of the jarred mushrooms. Some people are really against the jarred mushrooms, but this is also what they used in the sauce that I remember from childhood. And then I've got my jar of garlic. All right, and then for seasonings, I'm gonna do a little bit of crushed red pepper, just a little bit of heat, oregano, basil, and then my basic is always onion, garlic, pepper, and salt. These are as you can see, I have them in huge containers because I use these in almost everything I do. And yes, I'm going to use both the fresh-ish garlic and some granulated garlic because I never feel like this gives me enough of the flavor, even though I use huge amounts. But anyway, we're gonna get started. I've got here, it's cast iron ceramic coated. It's essentially just a really short Dutch oven, and this is what I use for making my sauce. I'm gonna turn the heat to medium here. What I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna heat up my meat, then I'm going to scoop out the meat and put in my vegetables and saute those, and then put the meat back in. So I'm gonna use the fat from the meat to saute my vegetables, but I don't wanna overcook the meat either. I don't want it to be too tough. I got one of these handy dandy little tools to chop up the meat. I love it. Actually, my dad is the one who gave me the idea to use this. I saw him using one at his house. So much quicker and easier than just using a regular spatula to chop it up. This is my first cooking video that we've done, and this is just like a dream come true for me. When I was a little kid, I spent a lot of time alone. I was raised by a single mother, and she often worked. Once I was old enough to be on my own a lot of the time. In the 80s, they left us alone. We were latchkey kids. We were left alone a lot anyway. But once I got a little older, I spent a lot of time alone and cooking the silliest things from like boxes and cans because she didn't have time or energy to think about cooking from scratch, and I don't think she really knows how. That's okay. So I would be in my kitchen making mashed potatoes from the little flakes, and I would be hosting my own little cooking show of how I make them taste better, which it was really just add more butter and put some pepper in there. I always dreamed of having a cooking show as a child, so now that YouTube exists, people like me can have our own little cooking shows.
You think when the YouTube guy made me at the zoo, he thought this is where we would be in 20 years?
I'm gonna put a little bit of salt and pepper on my meat while it's cooking. Just a little bit of... While this cooks, I'm gonna chop up these onions. When you're making pasta sauces, I highly recommend you get yourself a good olive oil. Apparently, fake olive oil is a thing, and a really common thing, going back to as long as olive oil has been sold. And you can look online. There are ways to figure out if your olive oil is good, but this has got all kinds of certifications on here. It's all kinds of verified and certified, and I was told that the certifications is what you need to look for. But I'm trying to keep us away from like seed oils. I use a lot of avocado oil because that is not a seed oil. The seed oils are the bad ones from what I'm reading. And I'm trying to keep Tom alive for as long as possible. I need my chopper because I have to be able to take some shortcuts or I can't get the things done that I need to get done. If you've got fibromyalgia or POTS or Ehlers-Danlos or any of the super fun, really painful and exhausting illnesses that so many of us have anymore, you totally get. You got to budget your energy. All right. I got to tell you, if you have any kind of disability or whatever you want to call it, for years I thought about getting one of these and didn't. And then I saw enough homesteading YouTubers get it and love it that I finally decided to get one. And it is totally worth it. It saves me so much.
Pushing shirt. Never touch blades with your fingers. What if I do?
Don't.
Kidding. I won't.
So I'm just going to slice this up kind of medium, not really thick, not really thin. I'm not going to be too anal retentive chef about it. You do have to be willing to beat it. And thanks to my little shortcut stuff, this is really the only chopping that I have to do for the whole sauce. So I'm going to get a bowl and I'm going to put some paper towels in it. All right, so I've got a bowl. I'm going to put some paper towels in here. I'm going to turn my heat down a little bit to about a 2, so medium low. All right, so I'm just going to let that meat sit while we cook our vegetables in here. All right, so as you can see, I do have some grease left in this pan, but not a whole lot. Because I'm going to be cooking in it, and I don't want pain, I'm going to put a splash of avocado oil in. I did kind of a turn and a half with the pan. And then we're just going to put in the onion. And then I'm going to drain my mushrooms. I'm really picky. I like the green giant ones and no other ones for jarred mushrooms. I've tried cheaper ones. And I hate being brand loyal to anything. So we have the onions and the mushrooms in the pan. I'll clean up the little bit of grease I spilled. I love this. This is a bamboo thing. I actually bought this for making like stir fries and Asian dishes, and I love it. I use it for everything now. We're gonna cook this until the onions are fairly clear. It'll take a little bit. But avocado oil is a neutral oil, so we're not gonna be able to taste that, but we will be able to taste the meat fat flavor. We're not going to add the garlic yet. We're going to wait until the onion is almost all the way cooked because it's really easy to burn fresh garlic. But it's really easy to burn and then doesn't taste as good. So we're going to add that toward the end and we're not going to let it get very brown. All right. Now it's a matter of waiting for the onions to cook. Okay, once your onions start to look about like this is when we're going to add the garlic. So they're not quite clear. They've definitely been cooked for a while. I don't measure garlic with any kind of measuring spoon. I measure my seasonings with my heart. I'll tell you what seasonings I used. I'm not going to tell you quantities because I have no clue. The best thing I can teach you about seasoning things that you're making from scratch is know what you and your family like for flavor. If it makes sense. Obviously, basil and oregano makes sense for Italian things. Just put some in, taste it. You'll be able to tell if it needs more, you know. So I've got this heaping fork full. And then we're going to do like a half heaping forkful. And that's going to be it for my jarred garlic. But you just mix this in with the onions and the mushrooms, whatever vegetables. Like, some people really like bell peppers in their pasta sauce. Feel free to chop some bell pepper up and put it in. I'm just not a big fan of bell peppers myself. But I have just found this isn't that hard to do, and I'm in control of what goes in it, and it tastes really good. The base of this sauce, the tomato part, is what I use to make like pizza sauce when we do family pizza night. At Christmas, we don't do like a big turkey or ham or roast or anything like that. It's usually just the 5 of us, so we make homemade pizzas. But I make my homemade pizza dough, and then everybody gets to kind of make their own. It's a nice little tradition, and then we watch things like Home Alone or we play a game. This is where we want it to be. This is where it is cooked. That onion's pretty clear for the most part. So what we're going to do now, we're going to add this meat back in. And we saved ourselves some calories there, as you can see. So then I just kind of mix the meat back in with the vegetables, get it pretty evenly distributed. And here is where we're going to add our tomatoes. Now I'm going to clean off the tops of these cans. Ooh, I made a mess. That's all right. All right, so we've added the tomatoes, the crushed tomatoes, 2 cans of crushed tomatoes. And those were 28-ounce cans, if you couldn't tell. The big cans. Mix all that together. Now we're going to start messing with the seasonings. You do definitely need some sugar to offset the acidity of the tomatoes. So this is literally all the sugar I have left in the house right now. You know what? You can experiment with other sweeteners. If you don't want to use white cane sugar, like I am using right now, you can absolutely pick any other sweetener you decide. It's just to balance out the acidity of the tomatoes. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this down to the lowest it can be without being off. I've got a gas stove. I don't have any control over that at the moment. We cannot afford to buy a new stove. And this one works just fine. It's just, I would prefer electric because I feel like I have more control when it's not an open flame. Again, I'm not going to measure. I'm just going to take a decent pinch. And I can already tell that's not going to quite be enough. So I'm going to start with like 2 little pinches. And then once I add all my other seasonings and I've let it simmer for just a minute, I'm going to taste it and I'm going to see if it's got that like acid tang. I'll add more sugar. All right, so now I'm going to do my seasonings. I'm going to do some oregano, and I pop the little tops off of them all the time because I shake them on like this. I'm going to start with that much. This is just how I do it. I just kind of cover it. I'm really looking forward to when I have my own fresh basil from my various gardens. My hydroponic, my windowsill one, the garden I'm going to have outside here soon. It's going to be so delicious to have that fresh basil. And I may at some point try and grow oregano as well. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of crushed red pepper. I just like a little bit of that heat and just a little bit of a kick. But we're also middle-aged, so I can't do it too much. At this point, before I add my more powdery things, I am going to put in my olive oil. Be generous with the olive oil with this. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna go round and round. So I did about 3 turns of the pan there, as Rachel Ray would say. So then you just kind of incorporate that in. It's gonna take a minute, but not very long. So now I got my granulated onion. I'm just gonna lightly sprinkle that across the top. We can always add more. And I do garlic. I go especially easy on the salt at first. Canned things do use salt as a preservative, so I try not to add too much salt at first. I'll definitely be able to tell if I need it. And then a little bit of black pepper. And then I just mix that in, and then I'm just gonna cover it and let it simmer. And then I'm gonna come back and taste it, adjust it, and then let it simmer again. In total, I'm gonna let this simmer for half an hour to an hour. But honestly, I think you could probably let it simmer less time. The flavors may not be as developed if you eat it faster. Everything's gonna be cooked through. It's just the flavors won't be as nice. All right, so I'm going to leave this for a while. I'm gonna set a timer for 30 minutes, just so I don't forget. And I have lots of other things to do today. I promised my son, since he did the dishes from the first batch of muffins that I made, which are over there. Some of them are upside down because the fruit ended up on the bottom, and I'm just trying to let them kind of cool that way to solidify a little bit. But I promised him I'd make another batch of muffins if he cleaned the dishes from the first batch of muffins. I also have to bake the bread for the week. I'm gonna bake 2 loaves of bread. And at some point, I know I've said this before, but I will totally show you how I bake bread at some point. So I am going to come back to this probably every 5 to 10 minutes and just give it a little stir. Honestly, it's just gonna be kind of when I remember to get up and do it, until this goes off and says it's 30 minutes, and then I'll taste it and we'll bring you back then. Okay, it's been half an hour. I probably came out here 3 times to stir it up and make sure it didn't burn to the bottom. So this is what it looks like after half an hour covered, pretty much the same. We're gonna give it a little taste and we're gonna see what we need to add. Okay, I definitely need more sugar. So again, I'm just gonna do pinches. I think it's salty enough. I think I am gonna use a little more of the herbs. All right, so I've added quite a bit more of the herbs, just because I couldn't really taste them much at all. I think I would like a little bit more heat. Just a little bit. I don't want to take it over that edge and have Tom like end up with a stomachache because of it. Sorry. If you heard any of my son in the background, he plays video games very loudly with his friends. I love black pepper. I am a little heavy-handed with it, and there have been times that got a little bit too far, and then he's ended up not feeling well after eating it. He's like, it tastes delicious, but now my stomach hurts. So I've mixed all that in, and what I should do probably is cover it again and let it simmer for at least like another 15-20 minutes before I taste it again. But I'm getting impatient and I still have bread and muffins to make today. So we're gonna taste it now. I think we're enough on the herbs. I think I might have gotten enough sugar in too. No, a little bit more sugar. And again, like the amount of sweetener you're gonna have to add to balance out the acid is gonna depend on what sweetener you're using too. I think we're gonna taste this one more time before I leave it for a final simmer, and then I'm gonna go start my bread. All right, and here we have a nice, beautiful, finished big pot of very hearty pasta sauce. This will feed my family several meals this week. I hope you give it a try and make it your own. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for watching. We appreciate you because you are helping us achieve our dream of having our own homestead. I want to let you know how much we appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.